Hello, everybody. We're gonna paint today together this view. It's one of my favorite buildings in Madrid. Is where the city hall is located. The building is from the early 20th century, and a Spanish architect really famous at the time, Antonio Palacios, and many of his buildings are today cherished landmarks in the country, especially in Madrid. There are a few of them which are really well known, like this one. And yeah, we're gonna make a drawing first. We'll try to keep it simple because this building has many details, and we could get lost trying to paint all of them. So we need to kind of lay the basic structure of the building without worrying too much about having everything in place, because it's as I say, it's kind of it could be intimidating to draw everything about this building. Um, so we're gonna just lay the basic structure of the building. This tower, for example, has an octagonal shape. We just need to paint all the different faces. Um, we are gonna worry more about having the general structure of the building and the general let's say proportions of the building right, and then while dividing the building into simpler forms, we can start adding details later. So first you see that there's this tower on top, then there's another kind of like cubic volume below it, and then there's the main let's say shape of the building underneath, not underneath, below that box that I'm drawing right now. And yeah, we just have to like painting this, drawing this way, getting from the bigger shapes to the smaller details, step by step. Okay. And but we won't draw every detail, because we're gonna try to have all the details afterwards, mainly with our brush. We're gonna suggest them. You don't need to draw every detail here, because it will be too much. So we just paint the basic structure, and then we will see how we simplify and how we make the more intricate details later with our watercolor. Now we start laying out the main body of the building, and yeah, like I said, we go from the bigger shapes to the smaller details, trying to worry more about how to construct these shapes in relation to each other rather than having every detail in place. Like I said before, there are many intricate details here, and I I am basically laying them more or less where they are located. I don't want to define them too much. I just kind of I am looking at the building and seeing how it's structure, it's organized in relation to each other to place everything in the right position. But I'm not really, let's say, I'm kind of like building a skeleton and then laying the place where some of the details are going to be, but I'm not trying to draw them with my pencils in too much in a too much detailed fashion. Okay, I just need to place more or less where everything goes, and then later with the brush we will be a little bit more let's say concrete, no, or specific, better word. So I just look at how things are. I'm trying to find the bigger shapes defining everything, and to have them in the right position, and then we can later with our brush suggest mostly every detail just in a simpler fashion without drawing every stone, drawing every little how do you say, silhouette. I mean, it's about suggestion, okay? But you need to have drawing first that has more or less everything in place. I keep adding a few more details. And again, I'm just building up on a basic structure that I did before of these three main shapes that we have: the tower on top, the little box below the tower, and then the main body of the building on the lower part of the painting. And then from that structure that we already laid out, we just keep adding details. But first, we always do this kind of like the skeleton of the drawing, simplifying the main shapes so that we can have them in place, and then we just add more information as we go. All right, so the drawing is done, and we're going to now start painting the using the watercolors. And first things first, the most important thing here is that we are gonna, this is kind of like a late day image, so we want to create an atmospherical image, let's say. I'm going to clean the palette before we start. Okay, now the palette is dry. It's clean. And what I was saying, we want to create an atmospherical image to capture the colors of the sunset. So first I'm gonna wet the paper. I'm gonna wet the whole paper, and then we're gonna start applying color. Some pencil lines will move a little bit. It will seem like it's getting dirty, but it's okay. We're gonna cover it later with a brush, so that's not a problem. All right, we will start with the sky first. I'm using cobalt blue. We won't go too dark with the sky. I want it to be light. So we just apply some cobalt blue here and there. I don't like making completely uniform, let's say, wash. It's the paper it's wet, so I just add paint here and there, kind of in an irregular fashion, so that when it dries it's not completely even, let's say. I don't want a flat surface. I want to suggest the idea of maybe distant clouds or atmosphere or whatever. So I apply paint. I use this kind of irregular brush strokes, and sometimes there's more paint in the brush, sometimes there's more water. It's just like suggestion of a sky, okay? It's not the main character of this painting, let's say. Now I'm getting some yellow ochre, and I am going to apply it to part of the sky and part of the building. This is kind of like the light color. I'm using a lot of pigment because I want it to be, and this is gonna fade out a lot later, so I want it to be strong. I am not applying exactly everywhere because some areas I want it to be lighter, let's say. I wanted to have just a little bit of a highlight, mainly in the tower, which is the most illuminated, let's say. And you see that I don't mind if if the blue and the yellow mix on the paper, they blend in a little bit. It kind of creates the illusion of glow, let's say, between the sky and the building. And also because the sky is somehow colored a little bit with this yellowish mix, let's say. I'm lifting some paint in certain areas that I want to be lighter. The places where the sun is hitting the most. The building is quite light, let's say. It's really white, so some parts they glow a lot, and you might feel like it, like you should keep some white on the paper. I'm not exactly keeping the white on the paper because it's a late day image and things are never completely white. Now I'm applying some quinacridone burnt orange, which is a color that I really like for this kind of painting. It's kind of like dominant in the transition between the light areas of the painting and the shadows. I am lifting it up a little bit here because in the end the sun is kind of low and everything gets this kind of orange glow that I really like. I am not really trying to keep colors in place. I'm just laying them on the basic areas that are affected by light here, and I don't mind if don't worry if some color jumps out of the building and blends with the sky. I mean, it's not this is not time to be accurate. It's just this is a first wash to give an impression of color. Okay, I added some pyrrole scarlet to the mix because I wanted it to be stronger than the quinacridone burnt orange. There's a really reddish glow in the building in this image. And now I incorporated a bit of opera pink to exaggerate even a bit more this glow, this late day glow. And I just put it, like I'm doing in this kind of irregular fashion. It's I don't want to make a flat wash, let's say. Now I incorporated some cobalt blue to the mix that had the opera pink. So I'm making this kind of purple mixture. I incorporate also some red. I mean, it's just about creating a dark purple, let's say. It's quite a thick mixture, what I'm using right now. There's not so much water in the brush. There's water, but not so much. And since the paper is still wet, colors are blending in nicely, but they stay more or less in place. If I used more water, the shape will open too much and it will ruin the transition between light and shadow. And we are defining now the parts of the building that are in the shadows, let's say. But this is not about getting details, it's just about getting the general glow that the building has in these parts. Now I am adding a little bit of cobalt blue, and I will put it straight on the paper. I just want to create variance within the shadow. Again, I always try to add different colors to the different washes that I incorporate into the painting. I don't want them to look flat. And I'm not applying paint exactly where it needs to be. I'm not defining a perfect silhouette of color, let's say. I don't mind if the color they bleed a bit, if they mix on the paper a little bit, because this is just a first impression of light, and then later we will go and add details. But for this first wash, I don't mind if the transitions, if the edges between light and dark areas are not perfectly defined. I'm gonna leave some paint here and there to suggest the idea of bounced light and glow from the more illuminated parts of the painting. Since this building has many, let's say, carvings, there are many, let's say, surfaces that receive more light and they bounce it, and this shows. It has to show in a way. So if you make a big wash like the one that we just did, and then you lift some paint using a dry brush, you will create that kind of illusion of a glow. Okay, now I will dry the paper and keep going. Okay, now I'm gonna prepare a darker mix for, we're gonna start adding details. We're gonna do this second wash for the darker shadows of the painting, and then we will add details over that, okay? But this is like kind of like the second wash where we went from the lightest colors. Now we're starting to add the darker ones, which are gonna define better the real volume of the building. And I'm kind of gonna mix this second wash with the details. I'm gonna more or less work both at the same time. Simply, I will not do every detail now, but I will start working some of them, okay? Because it makes sense in this kind of image. I am mixing ultra blue with burnt sienna, and when you do that, you get this kind of gray that I really like, and it's a gray that it's dark yet a little bit transparent, so it's gonna go nicely over what we did before, but still we're gonna get we're gonna keep the colors that are right now behind these really nice warm colors that we laid on the first stage. I'm preparing some extra mixes, some extra washes. I did another I'm using some opera pink and ultra blue to get this kind of violet, and now I'm adding a little bit of the opera pink to the previous warmer mixture of quinacridone, burnt orange, and yellow ochre, just to get a warmer color that we can use to show bounced light. I always have 2 or 3 washes prepared and 2 or 3 brushes prepared as well, so I can quickly jump from one color to the other and create beautiful mixes of color within the paper. But first we're gonna start working these details I said before. We're gonna go with this darker mixture of ultra blue and burnt sienna in order to start laying the big shadows in this painting. I am just lifting some paint here. There's a really nice detail in these windows, and I want to show it. So I placed the basic let's say color of that dark shadow color of these windows, but then I lift a little bit in certain places to show details that are there. And I am just gonna work with this dark mixture of ultra blue and burnt sienna in order to start defining the three-dimensionality of this object and its carvings and its architectonical details. And I jump from one color to another. I'm having here the dark gray mixture of ultra blue and burnt sienna, and then on a different brush I have a warmer mixture of quinacridone burnt orange and opera pink in order to show different kinds of shadows that are warmer in certain areas that are more illuminated. Maybe one day we can do an exercise focusing just on that, on a close-up, let's say. But I always do that. I have, let's say, a cold shadow and a warm shadow, and I combine both of them depending on where I'm painting. Here in the lower part of this shadow, I didn't go with the dark shadow to the bottom of it. I am just moving that shadow a little bit with the other brush, the warmer brush, so I can show bounced light in that part. Again, try always not to make shadows flat. Shadows have a lot of color and variance in them. They have bounced light. There's like a window on the opposite side of the street, which is hitting and getting some light back, and a lot of different things that affect the color and temperature of the shadows. So don't make them flat. I don't really think it's too important to be consistent with the colors that you use in your shadows, as long as they have variance and that you don't exaggerate it, and subtle variances of color make a shadow work. So keep that in mind. Have always two brushes at hand, one with a cold shadow, one with a warmer shadow, and even another brush with just with a little bit of water, in order to move the paint, lift paint, and also to change the temperature of the shadow in certain places. They will look much better if you do that. So we're just working our way down from the top to the bottom of the painting, and you see that it feels like there's many details here, and that I'm painting many details, giving too much information, but I'm doing it in a really simple way. I am not really painting every brick, every stone, and I'm just suggesting the idea of detail by um, having the brush working with fast around certain carvings that are in the stone, by leaving some areas unpainted, and in that way you suggest the idea of the three-dimensionality of this surface. You don't really need to go and paint every little detailed statue in order to suggest the idea that this facade has a lot of movement. Just be mindful that when you apply the brush on the shadows, you have to kind of work the edges in a way that suggests that there are different details there that cast shadows, that catch light, and work them in this kind of. You have to paint the shadows. Don't paint the object. Paint the shadows. If you do that, if you focus on the shape of the shadows, and you paint that, and you don't paint the object but the shadow that it casts, it will feel much more real. I think I just had another idea for an exercise that we could do. Maybe paint an object, focusing on its silhouette, or focusing on its on its shadows. I think it's a nice thing to do. Maybe we will do an exercise one of these days. All right. So you see how the front facade is coming is going alive. Let's say I am just warming up a little bit this surface here, which is getting a lot of light, warm light. As you can see, the colors that we added in the beginning, they already faded quite a lot. So keep that in mind always when doing the first washes. Be strong with the first washes because they will fade out, especially if you wetted the paper before. Now I'm gonna darken the dark mixed a little bit. So more ultra, more burnt sienna, a little bit of a thicker mixture because I'm gonna work some details that are a little bit darker than the others. I wanna paint certain windows which are kind of dark. And again, feels like I might be painting many details here, but I'm not really painting the objects that define those details. I'm painting the shadows that those details cast. And immediately your brain understands that there's an object here which has many carvings, many different surfaces, many different details that have volume, and it recreates the pictures for you. You don't really need to go too crazy painting everything. Just be mindful when you're doing a three-dimensional image like this one that every line, depending on the surface that it is, will probably has a vanishing point or not, and just be mindful when working on it so you don't miss that and you lose the three-dimensionality of the object. I'm working the brush like I'm kind of like drawing sometimes. I like to work fast, and that's it. And here in these parts, I don't want the for example, there's really dark windows here, but I don't really want to paint them too dark because I don't want to compete with the rest of the painting. For me, the focus on this painting is in the most illuminated part of it, and the rest is kind of like building up let's say context into which the main character is developing. The main character for me is the tower and the most illuminated part of the building, and the rest is just giving context. I'm more interested in talking in this image about the transition of light from the lightest to the darkest area of the painting, rather than drawing every detail accurately or with the same intensity. I never paint every detail in a painting with the same intensity. I just focus that the darkest and the lightest values are in the area which interest me more, and the rest is kind of I just define it as long as it gives me context to explain the rest of the building in a really kind of unfinished way. Okay, this feels mostly done. Probably I'm just gonna add a few more details and then we will see. I might just take the tape off uh, and then I'll probably let it rest a little bit and probably come back later and see if it needs more detail, because I've been painting this for a while now, and I think I just needed to rest a little bit before deciding if I want to paint it more or not. In any case, I really like this part when I take the tape off and immediately the painting pops. I mean, the contrast between the painted area and the white of the paper is just too good. I really like this doing this. Okay, I'm gonna sign it, but I will let it rest a little bit afterwards. So I will probably come back to it later, but let's see. I always sign with a red color, and I'm using this sable brush, which is great for that. It has this really sharp tip that is really great for signing. All right, so like I said, I'm just gonna add a few more dark details. It feels some parts of the painting feel like they need a little extra, let's say, contrast between light and shadow. So I am gonna enhance certain details using the same mixture of cobalt blue and burnt sienna in order to get this kind of dark gray. And yeah, I'm just gonna darken a few windows, a few details here and there, mainly in the center of the main body of the building, and we will finish really soon. I said cobalt blue and burnt sienna, but I'm using ultramarine blue right now, which gives you a darker, still kind of bluish gray. And the mix is kind of thick. I'm not using much water right now. I as always, I've pre-wetted the watercolor palette with some spraying some water, so that it's easy for me to get pigment from them. And then I'm using a small brush, so I don't get too much water on it. And I also have I can be accurate when working on the painting. We could already leave the painting as it is. I just feel like I need to give a little bit of extra contrast to some of the dark parts of this painting. Like I said before, it's good sometimes to let it rest a little bit, because when you're working for quite a while in one painting, and you might get lost in it, and it's good sometimes to just get away from it for a little while, and you get back to it, you see how you feel when you look at it, and you realize if you need to do more work or if you can leave it like that. So that's a good strategy sometimes. In order to finish a painting, which is a really delicate part, I kind of leave it when I feel that it's mostly done, but I get away and come back to it with a new look, after like after kind of just chilling out a little bit after all the intense work, and then you get a fresh look just by resting a little bit your eyes. and then you know if you have to work it more, you do it, and it kind of feels like your guts are telling you where it's lacking strength, where it's lacking more information or whatever. You see, just by applying this extra layer of dark in certain details, immediately they pop up a little bit more, and that's what I wanted. I think this is it. I'm gonna stop painting now. I hope that you learned something with me, and I hope to see you soon.